You alive, brother?
Um,
Your mic, it, like, loves to cut out now.
I
Yeah, I
don't know
can't...
why.
Okay. The
Huh?
delay... something?
It's definitely you because you're cutting out.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, what
You
happened last time?
speak?
Yes.
Um,
They're going down into the volcano.
right. Who's all there?
Shilian, Hua Cheng. Who else came with them?
Um, the faggot
Yeah.
and Moon Ching who appeared
Out of nowhere. They were looking for
out
him.
of the air.
They were
Yeah,
looking for him, and then all of a sudden he's like, I was here the whole time. And they were like, you
yeah,
weren't here the whole time. And they were being
yeah.
suspicious. So then they go down in the volcano. They cross a river of lava by jumping on those, like, hollowed bodied, like, ghost people.
Mhm.
Um, they are looking for Jinwoo, I think. Don't know where Function is. Mooching directs them towards, like, this crevice or whatever, and then Shilian goes in front of Hua Chong because he's like, I promised I'd protect you. And then he turns around, and then Hua Chong and the state preceptor aren't there, and he's going into this area with just Mu Ching, and then he finds Feng Xin injured on the ground, and then Feng Xin is like pointing behind him and is like, "Who is that? There's a figure in the darkness. Suspicious." And that's where it ended. All right, so now we're on the last book. Chapter 125, Exquisite Dice, Apprehension from Rolling a 1, Part 2. Veiled in darkness, the figure took a step forward. The firelight finally revealed his identity. Mooching. His face was dark and he didn't say a single word. Function grabbed Shilian. I was searching for people in the heavenly capital, and I was doing just fine. But then, out of nowhere, someone struck me from behind. Why else would I have fallen? He was the one who struck you? Shilian asked, his mind spinning. It was him, without a doubt, Function said with absolute certainty. And you were knocked out instantly? Shilian asked. Basically, Function replied. In any case, your highness, watch out for him. Don't let him near you, or just seize him outright. Bullshit, Mushing swore in spite of himself, but Shilian quickly cut in. Wait, Function, there's a problem here. If he ambushed you from behind and you were knocked out immediately afterwards, how do you know that Mu Ching was the one who did it? Function hadn't expected this question, and he didn't have an answer. Mu Ching seized the opportunity and scoffed. Huh! The heavenly capital was ablaze and completely chaotic at the time. For all you know, anyone could have hit you. But as usual, you're trying to dump your mess on me. Can't you just admit you're wrong? Function held on to Shilian as he stood up. Tone dark, he insisted. No, it was definitely you. Do you have any proof to back that up? Muching demanded. It was precisely because the heavenly capital was ablaze, Function enunciated. There was fire everywhere, and the person behind me cast a shadow on the ground. Even though I didn't get a chance to look behind me, I saw the silhouette when I fell, and the way it moved when it attacked. It was your shadow. As the two exchanged several verbal blows, Shilian watched intently. Muching still wouldn't back down. All this talk, but you still didn't see anything clearly. It's normal for shadows to distort reality. You think you can prove that I attacked you with nothing but a shadow as evidence? There's no way you saw enough to identify me in the moment before you blacked out. You know I can identify you with ease, Function said. His Highness knows it too. Shilian did know that. The three of them grew up and cultivated together. They couldn't be more familiar with each other's appearances and attack styles. None of them would need to see the other's faces to identify them. "Your Highness, you two came here together?" Function questioned. "Did he do anything suspicious on the way?" Shilian said. To tell the truth, Mu Ching had been acting extremely suspicious the entire way, visibly nervous and jittery. But at a time like this, it wasn't easy for Shilian to say so in front of Mu Ching. "No, think about it. It's suspicious that he even came to begin with," Function continued. "See the kind of person who'd put himself in danger to rescue anyone? Is that even Mu Ching?" Mu Ching's face grew darker. "Don't speak in such absolutes. It's hardly plausible for you to have sired a son, yet here we are." Shilian could tell this was headed in a bad direction, so he swiftly intervened. "All right, don't argue. Keep it up and we'll have to train idioms to calm down. Besides, if I was the one who knocked you out, why would I go through the trouble of luring them here to find you?" Mu Ching added. "Because you didn't think I could identify you after you struck me from behind," Function responded. "And who knows where the hell this place even is? When you lured His Highness and the others here, your goal might not have been to find me. Crimson Rainsod Flower got separated from you on the way, didn't he?" "Are you saying I'm an imposter who deliberately lured His Highness and the others into a trap? Well, sorry. His Highness and Crimson Rainsod Flower have been with me the entire time. There's no way they wouldn't have noticed." "That's true, yes," Shilian said. But that was only true for Mu Ching en route. What if he'd been switched after they entered the underground Wuyang Palace? They couldn't be sure. Mu Ching appraised Function. "Your Highness, I think you'd better stay away from him. After all, he's been lying there since we came. Crimson Rainsod Flower is nowhere to be seen, and he's trying to tear us apart. Don't you think he's the one acting more like an imposter?" White No-Face had disguised himself as them before. He could certainly do so again. Shilian rubbed his forehead. "How about this? Why don't you two say something that only the three of us would know? That way we can verify everyone's identity." "Like what?" Mu Ching asked. After giving it a moment of thought, Shilian asked casually, "What were you two screaming about on top of the snowy mountain?" Their faces froze. Shilian tucked his hands into his sleeves. "If your answers don't match, it means one of you isn't the real deal. We can move on after we've sorted this out." The pair exchanged looks of dismay, and neither said a word. At first, Shilian hadn't been all that curious about what they'd said behind his back, but now he couldn't help wanting to know. Moments passed, and Function still didn't answer the question. "You're both missing the point," he said instead. "I never said I think he's an imposter." Mu Ching narrowed his eyes. "So what were you trying to say?" "From the beginning, I've thought he's the real Mu Ching. He can't stand either of us, so I'm not surprised he pulls something like this," Function said bluntly. Mu Ching's hands clenched into fists, his knuckles cracking. Then he raised his open palm, ready to strike. The wounded Function barely dodged the blow, and the two of them began to brawl in earnest. Although Shilian had expected this, his head couldn't help but throb. "Calm down. Why don't we train some idioms, As they traded blows, Shilian could sense that the murderous aura surrounding them was intensifying. Several haphazardly thrown fireballs brightened the entire chamber, and only then did Shilian see that there were shelves all around that were stacked high with a collection of sabers, spears, swords, and other such weapons. The arms emitted an ominous, chilling air. This was likely an armory. No wonder the air was choked with a cold, murderous aura. Shilian himself used to own such an armory. It had been very dear to his heart, and he'd often lose track of time while visiting it. But this armory filled him with a strange, intense dread, and he didn't want to stay here another minute. Still, he didn't know whose words to trust at the moment, so he didn't know which side to help. Truth be told, they'd both been acting very suspicious. In the end, Shilian had to call out, "Royer!" Well, he'd bind them both first, and talk after. Royer had been waiting for an opportunity to show off, and leapt at this chance. Yet before the white silk band could shoot forth, Shilian sensed another chill from behind him. The direction of his attack changed in an instant, and he caught Royer and swung it behind. The moment he felt the white silk band catch onto something, Shilian seized it and yanked forcefully. However, whatever it had caught didn't move. Dread washed over Shilian, and the next moment he was yanked backwards by the other end of the silk band. His back crashed solidly into someone's embrace, and something cold and hard jabbed into his waist. Shilian was stunned into silence. Although his physique didn't make him look particularly tough, Shilian knew he was shockingly strong. So unless his target was some gigantic creature, who could yank him over so easily? Just as he was about to strike back, he felt a hand wind around his waist and heard a voice from above his ear. "Guga, it's me." "Sanlong?" Shilian asked. Sure enough, the arm that encircled him was wearing a silver vambrace carved with maple leaves, butterflies, and ferocious beasts. When he whipped his head around, he saw that the one who had caught him was a tall, slender man clad in red. The man was calm and collected, and a silver scimitar hung at his hip. The thing that had jabbed into his waist earlier was most likely the scimitar's hilt. Hua Cheng. Shilian instantly understood what had happened. Royer had dragged him to Hua Cheng's side on purpose. He'd essentially been fighting them 2 against 1, so of course it had been easy to yank him over. Steadying himself, he was left speechless as he picked Royer up. Eventually, he managed to mutter at it, "You little traitor." Royer lay unmoving, wisely playing dead. Shilian decided scolding it wasn't worth it. He tossed it aside. "Sanlong, what happened? Weren't you right behind me? Where's Master?" "This place is very strange," Hua Cheng said. "The path sealed itself when we reached the halfway point, both ahead of us and behind us. Then we bumped into something a little difficult, so taking care of it took some time." If even Hua Cheng said it was a little difficult, it really must have been. Shilian was faintly worried. "Are you all right?" "Of course," Hua Cheng said. "But I don't know where the state preceptor is now, so we may have to keep going deeper. By the way, what are those 2 fighting about? So noisy." "Oh," Shilian glanced over. "Them." Fengshen and Muqing finally noticed what was going on outside their conflict. They called a temporary truce. "Hey, be careful!" Muqing shouted. "Don't casually hang around people who pop out of nowhere." "Your Highness," Fengshen called out a moment later, "don't just pounce on him the moment you see him." Shilian hurried to explain himself. "What? What do you mean by that? I'm not the one who tackled him. It was Royer's fault." He trailed off, suddenly realizing why they were so nervous. Both Fengshen and Muqing were suspicious of imposters, so shouldn't Hua Cheng be the subject to that same scrutiny? Was the one standing before him the real Hua Cheng? Hua Cheng cocked an eyebrow. "So now you're all worried whether I'm the real thing, Supporting his elbow with one hand and leaning his cheek against the other, Shilian began to inspect him seriously. Hua Cheng noticed his gaze and stared back at him. Met with that stare, Shilian could inspect no longer. After a moment of contemplation, he came to a conclusion. He turned his back to his other companions. "I think he's real." What you think might not be correct," Muqing snapped. "Don't forget where we are. This is White No-Face's old lair. Anything is possible. Figure out a way to test him." "Well, that's easy," Hua Cheng chuckled. "Guga, come here. I'll tell you a good way that'll clear up your doubts immediately." Thus, Shilian stepped over to Hua Cheng, modestly requesting his guidance as he did. "What good way?" "Can you please not do everything he tells you to do? He's under suspicion right now, do you understand?" "Recite the first half of the verbal password to my communication array, and I'll tell you the second half," Hua Cheng said. "Then you'll know whether I'm the real thing." The 2 whispered into each other's ears. Then Shilian turned around, lightly clearing his throat. "Well, he's the real thing," he told the others. Fengshen finally didn't seem as tense anymore, but Muqing was still doubtful. "Are you sure? Don't lose your marbles the second you look at his face." "I just told you he's definitely real," Shilian argued. "Why do you 2 always have to act like I'm some—" "All right, that's over and done with," Hua Cheng said. "Back on topic. Guga, why were those 2 fighting?" With one hand over his forehead, Shilian gave Hua Cheng a brief rundown. "And that's about it. To be honest, I really don't know who's more suspicious." "Really?" He's clearly the most suspicious one, Hua Cheng replied, gesturing in Mu Qing's direction. Mu Qing was vexed. If you're going to slander me, at least have a reason, all right? Don't blame me every time something happens. Fine, Hua Cheng said. Then let me ask you this. What's on your wrist? At that question, Mu Qing's face changed color in a flash. He staggered back a few steps, wanting to flee, but Function was faster and seized him easily. Your wrist? There, on his wrist, was a cursed shackle. Veins popping on his forehead, Mu Qing pushed Function's hand off of him and glared at him furiously. When Shilian saw that thing, he went into silent shock, and his arms dropped to his sides. Mu Qing, your wrist. Mu Qing didn't reply, and his expression was dark. I suggest you respond honestly to the following questions, Hua Cheng said. Why did Zhenwu summon you to the Palace of Divine Might? What did he say to you? Why did you receive better treatment than the other heavenly officials, returning unharmed? Why are you behaving so uncharacteristically by volunteering to come to Mount Tonglu to rescue people despite the danger? What is the purpose of that shackle on your wrist? Why did you lure us here? Wait! Seeing the situation go downhill, Mu Qing backed a step away hastily. Don't attack me yet. Let me explain myself. Hua Cheng opened his arms. Please, do go on. Tell me first. Were you the one who struck me? Function demanded. After a pause, Mu Qing finally said through gritted teeth, Technically, yes, I did. But it's not what you're thinking. Function was furious, but Shilian said, Let him continue. Mu Qing inhaled deeply and admitted, That's right. I was the one who hurt Function. I knew it was you, Function yelled. Mu Qing turned to Shilian. But it was because the heavenly capital was done for. He was still wandering around despite everyone else trying to escape. He refused to leave and wouldn't listen. If he kept meandering around, he would have burned to death in the flames of hell sooner or later. That was why I decided to knock him out and pass him off to you. But you didn't pass him off to me. Function went missing and... Oh, this is Shilian. But you didn't pass him off to me. Function went missing and ended up here instead, Shilian said. Well, there was a little accident on the way, Mu Qing said. What kind of accident? The fetus spirit, Mu Qing said. It ambushed me from behind, bit me and wouldn't let me go. It refused to let me take him. I didn't get a chance to grab him before the heavenly capital started reshaping itself. So Function was somehow moved here, along with the piece of land beneath him. If that was the truth, then Mu Qing had meant to do a good deed, but instead made things worse and screwed Function over. It was a very awkward situation. Why didn't you tell us this sooner? Shilian asked. Function was dubious. Are you sure your plan wasn't to let me burn to death in the heavenly capital? To knock me out and leave me here? Mu Qing's face stiffened, and he turned to Shilian. The fetus spirit was crouching on his chest the entire time, and that ghost woman, Jianlan, came over eventually too. I figured she would wake Function and move him instead of just watching him burn to death. Now Shilian understood. Mu Qing had likely come to rescue Function out of guilt. He was the one who had knocked his rival out, after all, so his sense of responsibility made him put in some effort. That would explain why he was so jittery the entire way. He was probably worried that Function had died. Still, this set of excuses was hard to believe. Function pulled at his hair madly. What a mess you've made! Didn't you already know I was looking for them? If you didn't knock me out, maybe I would have found them! The fetus spirit is White No-Face's subordinate. White No-Face wouldn't do anything to harm them, Mu Qing said calmly. And they didn't want to go with you, so staying behind was a waste of time. You could call for them 1,000 times and it'd be pointless. Why not escape the heavenly capital first, then find a chance to look for them later? Why did you insist on recognizing your son when the situation was so dire? I simply made the best possible decision for all parties at the moment. Function wasn't nearly as calm as Mu Qing. Best possible decision, my ass! You can only say that because it's not your family! Wait, so are you saying you were trying to save me by making me leave? That's enough nonsense, Hua Cheng cut in. Just answer my questions. What did Zhenwu say to you? Muqing went silent. He clearly didn't want to answer. Hua Cheng stared at him. Are you currently under his command? Not at all! Muqing instantly replied. Then please explain that cursed shackle, Hua Cheng said. Muqing had been arguing for so long that his mouth had gone dry. A moment later he croaked. If I told you, you might not believe me. When we asked you earlier, you denied everything left and right. Of course it's going to be hard to believe you when you admit it now, Fengshen said. You want to know why I didn't admit it earlier? Muqing asked, slightly indignant. If I'd told you what had happened, you never would have believed me anyway. Who'd admit to anything with that attitude? When that's the attitude they can expect. I wouldn't be able to explain myself if I did admit to anything, so I might as well not bother. Besides, although they were lucky that nothing had happened to Fengshen, the whole incident was rather embarrassing. Considering Muqing's personality, it made sense he wouldn't want to admit to what he'd done. Shilian, who had been listening patiently the whole time, just said, Just let him finish. Muqing glanced at Shilian, and it took a moment for his words to stagger out with difficulty. This is because he wanted me to harm His Highness. I refused, so... At this point, he felt so uncomfortable that he couldn't continue. So he put a cursed shackle on you in a fit of rage? Hua Cheng finished for him. Muqing didn't respond. Nothing else? Fengshen demanded. There was nothing particularly notable in Hua Cheng's expression. Do you honestly believe what you just said? Muqing looked absolutely humiliated. Believe me if you want, he spat coldly. There was a misunderstanding about why I knocked Fengshen out, but I'm not under anyone's command. Muqing, you'd better just tell the truth, Fengshen responded. When Muqing saw his expression, his knuckles cracked. That is the truth! What do you want to hear? That I surrendered to Junwu and now I'm out to destroy you all? That's the person everyone thinks I am, right? Your Highness! He gazed at Shilian, emotions brimming in his eyes. Shilian stared pensively at him for a long time. Just as he was about to speak, Hua Cheng crossed his arms and moved to shield him, staring down Muqing. There's no need to glare at His Highness like that, he said coolly. After all, you've got a bad track record. I didn't ask you, Muqing countered. What bad track record? Hua Cheng smiled. What bad track record, you ask? How did your cultivation go after you stole that piece of blessed land from His Highness? His smile was laced with frost, and his tone was even nastier. Shocked and mortified, Muqing went pale and unintentionally staggered back a few steps. You! Muqing knew that his behavior hadn't been great when he fought with Shilian over that piece of blessed land, so he was afraid of people bringing it up and pointing fingers. While Hua Cheng's tone was light, it was tangibly aggressive. Muqing was surprised, but Shilian was too. How on earth did Hua Cheng know about that incident? Neither Shilian nor Fengshen were the gossipy type. They never liked talking behind people's backs or spreading rumors. While Muqing's departure was a huge shock to them at the time, they never said anything or complained to anyone about it. As for the fight over that piece of blessed land, Shilian had never wanted to talk about the incident ever again, and had never spoken of it to anyone. He trusted that Fengshen was the same. The 30-some heavenly officials wouldn't have voluntarily told anyone that they stole someone else's spiritual land for cultivation. They would have either kept it completely secret or twisted the truth. And so Shilian had never heard of any talk about the incident. So how had Hua Cheng learned of it? Even though he had planted countless spies in the heavenly court, that incident had truly happened far too long ago. It had been 800 years, and most of the ones involved had never said a single word. Did Hua Cheng really manage to dig up information about that ancient mess? How do you know about that? Who told you? Muqing questioned. He looked back and forth between Fengshen and Shilian, and in the end his eyes stayed on Shilian. There's no need to glare at His Highness. He never tells me these things. You were yelling about it on top of that snowy mountain. Did you forget? Hua Cheng jeered. Muqing's face had gone even paler. That lessened Shilian's confusion somewhat, though he couldn't help but wince. When Function and Mooching started going at each other's throats, they'd often furiously dig out the skeletons in each other's closets, and stop at nothing to air each other's dirty laundry. They would definitely seize upon ancient messes like that one, and hurling them at each other like bombs. It did make sense that hearing what had happened had angered Hua Cheng, but Shilian still had a nagging suspicion that there was something deeper underneath. For he had also remembered something else. The tale of the red-clad ghost who set hundreds of civil and martial temples ablaze. Hua Cheng became famous overnight when he defeated 33 heavenly officials and obliterated every single one of their temples and shrines across the entirety of the mortal realm. Shilian had long forgotten how many heavenly officials had fought him over that blessed land. Their titles, their faces, and even the words they said were lost to him. He could only vaguely recall there were about 30 of them. How many were there exactly? Could those 30-some heavenly officials been the same ones he encountered on that fateful day? If they were, didn't that mean Hua Cheng knew of the incident long before he became a supreme? It was a moment before Mooching gritted out, "That was then! This is now! And in either case, I never thought of..." As Mooching argued, Shilian suddenly gave him a swift, one-legged kick and shouted, "Watch out!" Caught completely off guard, Mooching was knocked straight to the ground. Whoosh, whoosh. 2 projectiles whizzed past him, trailing sharp, chilling air, and were nailed into the wall. Mooching leapt to his feet and dusted off the footprint on his chest. "Did you do that on purpose? Attacking me first?" Sorry, that really wasn't intentional," Shilian replied, otherwise occupied. If it had been intentional, Mooching would have been sent crashing into the wall to form a human-shaped hole. Everyone turned to see 2 sharp swords impaled in the wall, the blades still vibrating. "Who's there?" Function shouted. "There's no one," Shilian said. "They moved on their own." Clink, clank, clink, clunk. A murderous aura exploded from all around them. The weapons hanging on the walls began to shake violently, with so much force that the entire chamber quaked from the clamor. "Let's get out of here, quick!" Shilian exclaimed. Yet when he dashed to where the entrance used to be, Function shouted, "Why are you running that way? There's no way out over there. Where's the door? This chamber can't not have a door. How do we get out?" "There was a door here," Shilian exclaimed, "but it's gone now. What's going on with those weapons? Why did their killing intent explode out of nowhere?" Using only 2 fingers, Hua Cheng caught a long sword that came flying at him, and easily snapped it into 9 pieces. The shards scattered across the ground. It's been too long since anyone's used them, and they've gotten lonely. They get the urge to kill when they sense someone enter. That's all. The other 2 unconsciously turned to look at Mooching, who immediately cried, "It's got nothing to do with me!" "But," Hua Cheng said, "you're the one who led us here." Let me drink. My Shalos. Get this freaking cough drop. "I only pointed out this path because I saw the fetus spirit," Mooching countered. "Only you saw it," Hua Cheng replied. Mooching clenched his fists. He had nothing to say to that. Function spoke up. "Well, what do we do now? Can't these weapons calm themselves down?" Before Hua Cheng could answer, Shilian remembered the methods he'd used in the past to face such similar nefarious creatures. "It's possible," he mumbled, "but we must let them kill." "There's no exit out right now, though," Function said, "and there's only the 4 of us locked up in here. How do we let them kill? Why can't they kill? What can they kill?" Just as Shilian was about to speak, Hua Cheng said, 3 of us." "What? 3? Function questioned. "Just correcting you, that's all," Hua Cheng said. "There are only 3 of us locked up in here." Shilian whipped his head around, and sure enough, Mooching, the 4th person, had vanished from the armory. Really and truly, there was nothing but empty air where Mooching had stood. "How can this be?" Function asked, dumbfounded. "He was just standing there." Hua Cheng wasn't surprised, since he had already run into something similar. We're in White No-Face's territory right now. Everything follows his command, and he fears nothing. Of course he can spirit people away as he wishes. Function hadn't wholly believed the things he'd accused Mu Ching of, and the sharp words he'd exchanged with his old rival were mostly uttered out of anger. But now, he really didn't know what to say. It was a long moment before he finally managed, "Your Highness, Mu Ching, could he really have—" "Let's not talk about this right now," Shilian quickly replied. "These weapons are about to riot. We have to think of a way to calm them down. Otherwise, we'll be chopped to mush." With that, he pulled Fangshan off his back. However, Huacheng resolutely pressed down on his hand. Taken aback, Shilian turned and saw Huacheng staring at him intently. Red was slowly spreading around the rim of his eye. "Gaga, what are you planning to do with that sword?" he asked darkly. That's the end of the chapter. My Shaylos. You think he's sus?
I don't know. I don't know.
Mooching is a cursed jackal, man. He claims it's because Jinwoo wanted him to hurt Shilian. And he refused. Do you think he really refused?
I don't know. I feel like there's more there. Just don't know what it is.
I'm so excited for the next few ones. Do you want more? Damn you. Damn you to hell. I can't hear you at all.
I'm tired.
Okay. Are you leaving me then? Oh my god, I can't even hear you, man.
I